We have 47 minutes. Hard out at 5.
All right, boys. Here we go. Episode number 33.
Wow, you know what they say about 333?
What do they say?
It's a good number. It's a lucky number.
You know why I remember the number 33? Like as a kid, that was the Nickelodeon channel.
Mine was 35. Mine was 45.
Nickelodeon was?
Nickelodeon was for mine.
Yeah, I remember.
I was in Illinois.
I always will remember that. Like on the little red box, 33 on the old school TV.
Weren't you in 33 for DCFC?
I was my second year. Or maybe it was
Man,
both.
you must have been
both
really
years.
bad.
33. All the other good numbers were taken.
So you went with 33?
33 is also George's age.
Is that true?
Now when I was playing at DCFC.
When he was playing for DCFC.
Listen,
He just moved like he was 33 back then.
But 33 is also as close as we're going to get to 1/3 of 100 episodes.
How long
I always
have you
come
been
up with
saying
these
that?
fractions. I always come up with these fractions about how close we are to 100 episodes. 33 is as close as we're going to get to 1/3 of 100 episodes for this channel. And for this podcast, sorry.
Do you know how many layers I have on this? And I'm still cold.
Make sure you guys follow us on all of the social media channels before we get started. The NGW Podcast, or at the NGW Podcast for Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. And then YouTube is youtube.com/at the NGW Podcast. But we're so close to 3,000 followers on TikTok. Our YouTube is what we need to get up because we have like 28 followers on YouTube.
We're so close. Look at all these threes.
There's a lot of threes in this.
33, episode 33. Almost to 3,000 on TikTok. Almost to 30 on YouTube. Wow. I mean, I'm just
And while you're 33 years old.
And I'm 33 years old.
Yeah. And this episode can only be about 33 minutes long because Joe has to leave. Hard leave at 5.
Yes.
Yep. Wow.
We're on a time limit today, so we're gonna try and take out the Darwin Nunez segment.
Oh,
What's that? The garbage segment?
That'll take us to about 20 minutes for the full podcast.
Yep.
Speaking-
People love it. People love it.
Speaking of Darwin Nunez, Georgie. So I wanted to start off. We were talking a little bit. Well, actually, let me just before I even say that, before I even get there, I have a late Christmas present for Georgie. Late Christmas present because you know these manufacturers that are not in the United States.
They take a little time.
They take a little bit of time. We were talking in the last a few podcasts ago, and he gave me this idea, and I had this genius idea. So I figured, perfect opportunity for Georgie's late Christmas present. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So we were talking about shin guards. Remember that?
Yeah.
The mini shin guards. Georgie still plays. Georgie's the only one out of all the three of us that still is active. All right.
But
Consistently, yeah.
Consistently.
Oh,
So Georgie's gonna need some shin guards.
That
You're
is
gonna
true.
need some shin guards. All right. He uses cardboard right now.
Do you?
He uses cardboard.
Or no shin guards at all.
So I got you, Georgie. Some customized. Where are they? Some customized
stop.
shin guards.
Can I?
Look at one, Joe. Georgie, these are your customized shin
These are
guards.
awesome.
Dude.
Oh, we're gonna put these up to the camera. Hold
my
on.
God.
Hold on. Let's just take a
These are-
little. I'm gonna show these
Here,
to
should
the
I
camera.
walk mine up to the here. Oh my! Actually, can I look at this some more? This is amazing.
Wow.
I don't think it's gonna be able to zoom in that.
Oh, man. I need to text her right now.
Oh my goodness, dude, Georgie, these are great.
Can you guys see that?
Oh, my God. I'm... Wow.
Go ahead and give that to Georgie. So that
Look.
I got Georgie some customized shin guards, as you can see on screen. If you're watching this on the, if you're listening to this on Spotify, I'm sorry, but you got to go to the YouTube or the TikTok right now to go see this.
Oh my, those are good.
But yeah, there you go, Georgie. And those might be a little bit big for you, but I figured that was the smallest size they carried.
This is perfect. This fits. That's literally.
I can't wait. I can't wait till the ref asks you, "Hey, you got some shin guards on?" and you pull that out and show him. Oh my goodness, that was good.
Yeah, his favorite loves.
Yep. There you
He's
go.
got his G friend. All right, dressed in full on
Khaleesi mode.
Khaleesi mode. He's got his three dogs, 3 of his dogs. I didn't include Charlie in there.
Yeah.
And then I put his obviously in the middle has to be the most important part of your life.
His main love. His
Darwin
main love.
Nunez. Darwin
Listen.
Nunez.
I hope Darwin sees this. And
So
yeah, I mean, listen, Darwin's a G. That's all we need to say.
all right, so let's get into the pre-cap. Joe, you're the host now. I'm sorry, I took your
Oh,
I
so
took
I'm
your
the
spot away.
stats man. I'm
You're
the host.
Yeah, go on, Joe.
All right,
What do we
so
How can I concentrate after this?
Yeah, Georgie's going to be completely and totally distracted. But that actually might be good for us because we'll
Finally,
actually actually be able to talk about something, other than Darwin. But today, we obviously have our EPL recap, so we're going to talk about the Chelsea-Fulham game, the Newcastle-Manchester City, which was that was a fun one to watch. United versus Tottenham, we just finished watching that. We were live on that. Everton and Aston Villa, that happened this morning. Madrid as well versus Barcelona in the what was that technically? It's not the Copa del Rey. Supercopa final
in Saudi Arabia.
And that's really it. And we might talk about a few other quick things as we go throughout it. But where should we start? Or do you want? You know what? I'll pick. I'm gonna pick.
You pick.
I'm picking. We're gonna start with the Newcastle City game yesterday.
It's a good place to start.
What do you guys think?
I had hopes. The City are going to slip up. To be honest, watching that game, first half it felt like City are going to slip up. Mm-hmm. I thought Newcastle played, I don't want to say really well, but they did cause City a lot of problems.
Played well, yeah.
On the counterattack, and it was back and forth. Yeah, like me and Javi were talking. I had no idea. It just felt like both teams were going to keep scoring. The problem of why I think City won the game and got points out of the game and actually got all 3 points is because Newcastle just completely died in the 50th minute. For 40 minutes, if you're just going to sit back against a Manchester City team that's already really good in possession, that's already good at creating those one-on-ones, 2v1s, and scoring goals and all that, you're going to get scored on.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because first half watching it, I would have said this Man City team does not scare me at all. And we've been talking about it. If teams go at Manchester City, City struggle.
You can score.
City struggle. What happened was, again, Newcastle died down. They didn't have any subs to put in. All their main, actual first-team players were defenders.
Yep.
So they had no options going forward. And you can tell the players were just absolutely dead. So, again, you sit back against City, they're going to punish you. If you go at City, there's always a chance. And Newcastle played fine in the first half. But I just think Newcastle died down. And KDB coming back from injury, huge boost. Oscar Bob, amazing first goal to obviously get all 3 points in the last second of the game. So, unlucky. And it sucks because now it feels like the momentum's back with City and just feels like
winning away at St. James's Park, regardless of who's there or who's on the field or not, that's not an easy task.
Yeah.
And City pulled it out.
Well,
Javi?
the commentators were talking about, or the pundits were talking about, should Newcastle sit in and just kind of go for the draw, or should they try and go at Manchester City? And a couple of them actually said that they think they should sit in, and because Newcastle wasn't at their best or whatever. And then, like George was saying, when they were going at them, I think it becomes a really good opportunity for Newcastle to actually try and get something. But ultimately, the truth is Kevin De Bruyne. That's it. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't come on, that game probably ends up in a tie.
Yeah, or even a loss.
Newcastle could hold on. It's kind of hard because you could tactically prepare for everything. Like you said at the end, when City has a player like Kevin De Bruyne who comes off the bench, it's very difficult to do anything about it. And I mean, even the second goal, even the one that he gave it to Oscar Bob, the assist that he gave to Oscar Bob, you don't expect KDB to really be that. It's very difficult for a player to be very, very dangerous from that spot.
Yeah, it was a weird angle.
It's a weird angle. He's a little bit further out. Yeah. The line is set pretty well, and somehow he manages to pick out the perfect pass to Oscar Bob, and then Oscar Bob is absolute quality for that finish, by the way.
Yeah.
It's crazy nowadays, man, that you see some of these young talents that are doing things that they make it look so easy, and you're like, where did this guy come from? It's like Phil Foden. When he first came on, it was like how good he was in tight spaces technically. And you're like, how are they training these kids these days now? Because they're getting better and better at younger ages. I mean, I don't know how young Oscar Bob is, but I assume he's pretty.
I think he's 20. I think they said yesterday 2021, but it's. I agree with a lot of the things that both of you said. I guess the thing I think Newcastle, they went all out in that first half when I think the right play would have been to kind of do a mixture of both, at times sit in and at times go run, knowing you don't have the subs to bring on later in the game. Because at the end of the game, Isak was gassed, Almiron was gassed. They couldn't even
hold up the ball.
They couldn't even hold the ball up. They couldn't press. They really couldn't do anything. And the thing I thought that I actually, when I looked at the team sheet, because that was when the news, I think yesterday morning or the day before was when the news about Haaland said, hey, he's going to miss. Because we were all expecting, I think, at least I was, Haaland to come back too. I thought they were getting Doku, Haaland, and De Bruyne all back at the same time. And I was like, oh man, this is going to be bad for Newcastle. Missing Haaland obviously helped, but Kevin De Bruyne is something different. And he was on the field for what, 30 minutes?
Oh, if that, 20 to 25 max.
Yeah, it was like 20 to 25, but he had maybe even less. I think he came on in like the 71st or something and then scored in the 75th. He scored like 4 minutes after he came on.
There was a shot of him like running. He was gassed.
He's just beat red already.
I would assume.
Yeah,
but that finish though, I mean, that's something like he obviously is great at getting the ball in between lines, turns, and everyone's expecting him. They're making all these runs off the ball. All the Newcastle players are dropping, thinking he's going to go pick a pass, and it didn't look like he was lining up to shoot.
Yeah.
No one closed him down, and then
it was a weird finish.
It was. I've never seen
like inside the foot,
running this way,
running to the left, placing it to the left,
through legs.
It was inside the foot, just passing into the goal. That's it.
Easy as like.
It's good to see that he hasn't missed a beat since he's been out. Like comes in and probably even a little bit better just because he's motivated since he hasn't played in such a long time.
And fresh.
Mm-hmm. So your point though on Oscar Bobbitz, where do these kids come from? It shows how important it is as a young kid. Like if you're a young kid out there listening to this, just master the ball. You know, like the rest of it will come. Your speed will come. Your strength will come.
Yeah. And then get recruited by Manchester City's academy.
Master the ball.
And then boom.
Well, your speed won't come if you're me, but yeah.
I'll tell you who else really impressed me, and he keeps impressing me. Isak. I like that guy so much, man. He looked like if you look at him, you don't think he could be a Premier League level player. Like he's
great.
Skinny. He's not. I don't think he's probably that super tall. He doesn't look strong or anything. He's not necessarily the fastest, but the guy can finish, man.
He's clinical.
He's so clinical.
Yeah.
And not just clinical as in like put the ball in a place where you could do a one-touch finish, but clinical in terms of like gets the ball, creates the opportunity for himself to shoot, and then shoots and scores. So I'd be surprised if he stays at Newcastle for a while because I think somebody's going to pick him up.
I think we've talked about this on the podcast before. He was rumored to come to Arsenal, and watching him play now, he would fit. He's exactly what we need because I think he's Jesus and then some. You know, because he can do a lot of the things Jesus does from a movement and running perspective, but he is, as you said, clinical.
So good, and he works really hard, obviously, but the second goal came from him closing down, I think it was Ruben Diaz, and got us something on it, and then it went to Anthony Gordon or whoever it was, and then they scored.
Yeah, finished.
So the work rate is there as well.
Is this what City needs to make their run?
I told you guys.
Is this
you
the
guys
beginning
know
of
this.
it?
The thing is, anytime City needs to make up points, they always do.
Yeah.
If City have dropped points, it's in a time where all the other teams have dropped points, or it doesn't really affect them as much. But City has never. I mean, maybe a little bit at the beginning of the season, but anytime they like this one was an important one because obviously Liverpool has been doing pretty well. So City, with a game in hand, has to win the game to stay 2 points behind Liverpool, right? These are the moments where I don't ever question City, because I know that they're going to perform if they want to keep their title hopes alive. So, not a surprise.
City's not gonna bobble it. You have to go take it from them from now to the end of the year if you want to win the Premier League. Like you're gonna have to go on a run where you don't lose a game.
And they're getting players back, which is crazy because now they're going to be pretty full strength for. I mean, unless an injury happens, but they're getting all their injured players back.
Treble in their cards?
I don't think a treble. No treble.
I mean, you have Haaland sitting at home. You see the post he said? It's time for a shot.
Yeah,
He's
milk.
taking shots of milk.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to win the Champions League. I think they'll probably win the Premier League, but I don't think they're going to win the Champions League this year.
Who do you have winning the Champions League?
I don't know. I just don't think Manchester. I don't think the treble is hard enough to do once. I don't think in our lifetime we're ever going to see somebody do it twice in a row.
Twice in a row
Would be
nearly
absolutely
impossible.
insane.
That'd be crazy.
Put some money on that one. That probably won't get the return won't be that much right now because they're so good still.
I have no idea, to be honest.
But
So City obviously wins. Another team who's starting to string some wins together and climb the table. Chelsea. Top half now. Above Newcastle.
are they finally
table.
top half?
They are above Newcastle on the table as well.
Wow.
Wow, it's impressive. 9th. And the crazy thing is that they still have a game more than West Ham, but they could in theory they're only 3 points away from 6th place.
They're only 9 off the top 4.
So still a lot though, to be fair. 9 points.
I don't see it.
Where do they finish?
They're still struggling.
And what do you think about the game?
5th to 10th.
I think 5th is a push too. I think they'll probably finish closer to 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
Chelsea. They can't sort it out. They cannot sort it out consistently to convince anyone, including Chelsea fans, that they are going to be doing better.
Their next Premier League match at Anfield.
Is it?
Yeah. They've got EFL Cup against Middlesbrough, then FA Cup against Villa, and then January 31st, 3:15 p.m.
Oh yeah. So Liverpool played Bournemouth first
against
away,
Liverpool.
and then they play Chelsea home. Okay.
Did you guys watch that game at all?
I did watch a little bit of it.
Pretty boring.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Fulham had chances.
Yeah.
Like, it was okay, but I don't know. Chelsea, just too inconsistent for me.
Yeah.
It's not.
Especially going forward.
Yeah,
they keep getting the most they've been awarded the most penalties in the league.
Yeah. I mean,
And you said Nkunku's out, right?
Yep.
Yep.
That's crazy, man. Poor guy. What is it this time? What's his injury?
I think it's the same thing.
They just said setback. I didn't really. From what I
Maybe
saw,
he just felt it again?
Yeah, felt it again, and I think they're being cautious with it.
Yeah. That's
Pochettino
crazy.
said he's worried about the setback and all that. So,
We just watched the United Tottenham game,
yep.
and I told you guys it was going to end in a draw, and it did.
Yeah,
2-2.
2-2.
You did.
I mean, it's pretty fair.
But Joe did
Yeah.
say it was a little bit Manchester United a little bit more entertaining this time.
Yeah, the first half especially was high flying. I thought both teams looked like they were
Counters.
going to win the game. Yeah, counters, both ways. We talked a little bit on the live, but I'm glad to see Rashford on the score sheet again. Højlund, goal and assist. Or wait,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rasmus
yeah.
goal and assist, yeah.
goal and an assist. And then for Tottenham, Van de Ven's back, but it also looked like he might have gotten a knock or tweaked something. But
yeah.
he stayed on. So
Probably a cramp, but
Yeah,
he's
we'll
been
see.
out for a while. Javi, I'm just gonna let Javi talk 'cause I know he loves Big Ange.
I think Tottenham's, now that they're getting their players back. They went through that really bad spell of red cards and injuries, and they're actually pretty good. They're not bad. I mean, they just got Timo Werner, right?
got an assist today as well.
Yeah.
So he gets an assist.
It's on the score sheet,
They
yeah.
put in Dragusin in the last 15 minutes of the game. Richarlison's been much more consistent.
Scored another one today.
So Tottenham is they're finally balancing out because they went through a really good moment at the beginning of the Premier League. Then they had a drop off because of all that stuff that happened, and now they're kind of getting back into it. So right now, what place is Tottenham in right now?
And
Fourth
Son
or
is
fifth?
Son is gone.
Do you guys
So
think
fifth.
Dragusin starts for them
He better.
over who? Romero?
Yeah.
I would put him over Romero because
You don't know what you're gonna get.
you never know what you're going to get with Romero, man. He's just so
Tottenham tied with Arsenal on points.
Wow.
yeah.
With,
Game
a game,
more though, right?
with one game extra played, but tied on points.
Yeah, so if you look at their lineup, right? So they have Van de Ven and Romero as the two center backs. You got to think that Dragusin's going to be better than one of them at least. And then obviously Van de Ven got subbed off, so you never know. But-
if there's no setback, I think he's the main center back, and then Romero and Dragusin just swap random games depending on what you need.
Yeah,
But-
because I think Van de Ven is amazing. He's been
his
so
speed.
impressive, so fat, immediately
Yeah.
caught up with the pace of the Prem.
But Son's missing, so that's why they got Timo Werner in,
Mm-hmm.
which I think again is a good piece of business. Alone doesn't hurt anyone. If it works out, you have an option to buy for 15 to 20 million, which is pocket change these days for these teams. So I think, and also you got to think, Spurs went into this January transfer window and got whoever they needed right away. All
Yep.
the teams are like, oh, rumors, you hear talks, monitor, blah, 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 blah. Spurs are like, okay, identify what they need, went for it, got 2 players in, got rid of Dyer. Son is going to come back after the Asian Cup. So that boosters your attacking players already on top of with Timo on the team. So plenty of options.
You think that's a big Ainge effect? He strikes me as like a straight shooter. Like when he talks to reporters, he'll call people out. It seems like he'll tell players exactly what he thinks. Do you think he's going to the board and saying, "Hey, I want this player and this player," and then they go get him? Because it seems like they knew exactly who they wanted.
Yeah,
were straightforward with it. Went out and got him. When you have all these other teams who
are just monitoring,
are kind of monitoring, playing games, backdoor this, backdoor that.
Yeah, I mean,
and is that why Dragusin, you think, even said Tottenham over Bayern? Because it's like, hey, I'm going to deal big Ainge and this guy. They are direct. They're straight to the point. As a player, I think you'd like that.
Here's what I don't understand is that there's some teams out there that the manager doesn't have as much communication with like the sporting director and the board when it comes to the transfers of the players, which makes no sense because you can't buy a player that you like, but then you're not the one that's coaching them. You're not the one that's telling them that what position that they can play in. So Georgie sent me a quote from Bobby Firmino when he was at Liverpool with Rodgers, right?
Yeah, Brendan Rodgers.
And Brendan Rodgers, so Firmino's like, I was put out of position. I had no idea. I'd never played that position before. At one point, I felt like I was basically playing like a fullback. Mm-hmm. And he's like, and I wasn't going through my best moment. He's like, and then I found out that Rodgers did not want me. The board wanted me, but he wanted, who was it that he was competing against?
Benteke,
Christian Benteke. And so he was like saying, once I realized that Brendan Rodgers didn't want me on the team, then it all made sense to me as to why I was playing out of position, why I didn't feel comfortable, and why I felt like there was no confidence in me as a player. He's like, I found out that the decision was strictly by the scouting department, and he was the one that brought in Benteke, and the scouting department was like, well, we're going to get both of them, and we'll let them compete for the spot, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day,
they're two different, drastically different players, those two.
Yeah, but Brendan Rodgers is the one that makes the decisions as to who plays where. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, if he would have liked Firmino, he would have put Firmino as a striker, and then he would put Benteke as a winger or as an outside back, and then it would have been the same situation, just flipped, right? So that's why I don't understand a lot of these managers. And I get it if you're not such a big name, like if you're Mourinho, Guardiola, Klopp, all these guys, as soon as they have contract negotiations with teams, they tell them, I want full control of the transfers.
Yep.
It needs to be my decision to be like fully approved at the end. But some of these managers that aren't so well known probably can't afford to do that. They can't do that in their conversations.
As I guess, question for you then, Javi, coaching. For me, I think if that was the case, I would rather go to a lesser team where I know I'm going to have control over who's sitting on the bench and who's on the field and like who's actually in the locker room. Would you turn down a top-tier job? Let's say, let's use Graham Potter as an example. If at Brighton you can pick all of the players and all the transfers in and transfers out, would you leave and go to Chelsea knowing you don't have the same luxury there? I would rather stay personally at Brighton. What about you?
I would go to the bigger club because at the end of the day, if
Really?
you have better, because the smaller clubs, like you might have control of who you can get, but you're even more limited because you don't have the money. Yeah, you don't have the money to be able to buy real legit players. Whereas like if you tell me I'm going to buy you the most expensive player or one of the most expensive players, even though you don't like him, it's like, hey, at least we know he's going to be somewhat legit. It's just about how I use him. Versus like, hey, we'll let you get whoever you want. However, your budget is $45 million on one player. And you're like, all of a sudden you're very limited, right?
See, I think back to Jose at Porto because like one of the reasons why that team did so well is he went after a specific type of player that would appeal to the local crowd, and he built a specific culture because to me it all starts there. You have to have that culture of everyone buying into the cause or the vision that you paint as the leader or the coach, as the manager. That without that, I think it can fall apart on you really quickly. And I also think you can outperform those better teams if you have the culture piece of it. Big Ange has even come out and talked about how, like at this level, the talent difference is so small that it really comes down to the character. And a lot of times if you get the right characters in, it raises the level. But interesting.
That's what you would hope. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why Guardiola is Manchester City's won the Premier League for the last however many years in a row or whatever, you know what I mean? So
he gets both though. I think he does a good job of getting both.
Yeah. But every manager, it's always hard to compete against Manchester City, regardless if Pep is there or not. It's always going to be hard because of how much money they're going to be able to spend on players. And you're also like, anytime you're trying to get a player to join your club, if there is interest from Manchester City, you're a lot of times you're going to lose out. Like Tottenham would lose out to, like we were talking about how surprising the Dragusin move was, because most of the time that player will be lost to Bayern Munich if Bayern Munich steps in and says, I want you.
Yep.
So it's always, that part is always going to be hard. But I do agree with you. I think in the right conditions, a mid-level team can do well as long as the coach and the scouting department and the board are all on the same page, because then you're able to build something and you have a little bit of time to build it. Similar to like Brighton, what Brighton's done, Aston Villa, what Aston Villa's done. And then again, the Klopp rebuild when Klopp took over, and, it was a process.
Speaking of teams spending a lot of money, and Aston Villa, Everton, Aston Villa today, 0-0 draw.
I actually didn't watch that, so
I watched it.
Is this going to be? Is this Villa slipping up? Is this Villa showing their true colors? I mean, that's a game. If you're going to compete for top 4, you should be expecting 3 points from, I'd assume.
Everton was home, right?
Everton was home.
Yeah.
So it's not an easy fixture.
No, it wasn't easy at all. And they both played well. Like, they both had moments.
And, well, we want to talk obviously about the game. And then what were you reading, too, about Everton? You want to share that?
Yeah, I mean, Everton and Nottingham Forest just now, like 20 minutes ago, was just released that they're both going to, I don't know exactly the wording, but they've messed up in their profit and losses sustainability in the Premier League. So fines are coming for both teams, and they're both looking to fight it.
Did it say point deductions too, or just fines?
It just said fines.
Okay.
I don't know what that's gonna.
Well, they'll just uphold the point deduction for Everton, right? Is that what? Is that what?
This is something different.
This is something on
something
top
different.
of
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Yeah, this is
now you're looking
So they're
at
getting
mismanagement of profit and loss, I think, it sounds like, right?
Yep. So who knows what's gonna happen with that? But again, all of the comments talking about one thing only. You can't go against Nottingham Forest against Everton when you have Manchester City with, like, it just doesn't.
Like, what are we doing?
Well, and Newcastle's another reason. They supposedly, the rumors are now that they have to sell in order to meet the rules or the whatever the money profit losses they have for the year. And they have to sell one of their main players, whether it's Isak, whether it's Bruno, and they have to
This is
be
Arsenal's chance. Go get Isak.
But does see? I don't. It's tough because you can look at it either way. For example, it's not fair that Manchester City had the freedom to spend all this money prior to the new rules, and still do,
And like have all these assets. Obviously,
Yeah.
they're human beings, but
Yep. And then now, when a new team like Newcastle gets taken over by somebody with a lot of money, they're not allowed to do the same thing that Manchester City were. And I get both sides in terms of Newcastle feel like it's not fair because what Man City are allowed to spend the money they want, all the players they want. But here we are trying to rebuild and become one of those top 4 teams, and the Premier League is saying no. So now we have to sell. But you look over, it's just a mess to me at this point of how one team is being judged on certain things, and then another team you're just turning your back away. And a lot of people are saying this is the reason why the Premier League is looking after the original top 4, in terms of they spend the money prior, and now all the new teams that do have money or potentially get more money,
new ownership.
you can't. You're shutting them down and now letting them compete to that level.
it's like trying to start a car company and saying, hey, everyone can spend the same amount of money now, but it's like, well, GM and Ford already have 10,000 warehouses all over the world.
So it's not
Like, I
it's-
can't compete with that.
It's tough. So it's going to be interesting to see if Everton do get point deducted again if it comes down to that. Because
How wild would that be?
Yeah, I don't know. And so everybody was talking about how they've been doing so well that if they were going to take any point deduction, it would be this season. Like, take it this season or whatever. However, their last few games haven't been great. I think they're winless in their last few games. So let me check the stat, but they're getting very close to the relegation zone right now.
1 point up, 1 point out.
So they're 1 point out of the
with
relegation
one
zone.
extra game played than Luton. So Luton gets a win.
So look at this.
And Everton drops in.
Their last 4 Premier League games are a loss to Tottenham 2-1, a loss to Manchester City 3-1, a loss to Wolves 3-0, and then a tie with Everton 0-0.
with Aston Villa,
Yeah.
Sorry, Aston Villa. Yeah, that's what I
I
mean.
mean, to be fair, Spurs, whatever, City, whatever. The Wolves one,
That's killer.
That's the killer one, and the tie against Villa is not the worst. But you get at least a point, 3 points against Wolves. You're looking in.
The only thing I would be worried about that is that Luton has had some really good performances. Not really good, but like performances where you think they probably should win and they've been ahead or whatever.
And they don't.
and they don't, and they just haven't held on against Manchester City, against Arsenal, and then they just came back to tie against Burnley.
Last second, where it was very
Controversial too, yeah.
But you got to think that if Luton continues playing the way they've been playing, it's just a matter of time before they start grinding out some of these results.
That's what you said, though, too, about Luton. You said that their ownership knew this and was prepared to get most of their points in the back half, right?
Yeah, and I think they would have hoped that some of the games, like the Arsenal or Man City game, would have been a huge 1 or 3 points on one of those games.
Yeah. Well, if there is a point deduction for either Everton or Nottingham Forest,
that puts them right into the relegation.
Then we have a relegation battle, which Sheffield's going to go down. Burnley, they would have to string a few wins together. But Luton, it looks like, they're...
I hope Luton stays up.
I think Luton can. It'll be interesting. Brentford is also down there, but they get Ivan Toney back in a few days. He comes back, I think, on the 18th.
He did say, he said something about like what does it mean to come back, or how does he feel about coming back? And he says that like he feels like he owes the people, like it's time for him to pay. He said it's time to pay back the people for like supporting him during this whole thing.
He scored a hat trick with the under 23s first game back.
He's ready.
So he's not going to Arsenal, huh?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say that and then and then go to Arsenal and just.
Maybe pay people back in terms of.
Yeah,
whoever supported him overall, not just
the club, but just fans in general.
But he's talking about like the people that have supported him. So
I'm sure the club has done anything and everything to like.
But I really hope Arsenal gets one of those strikers, Isak, Tony, one of those types of players, because that's what we really need. Speaking of that, I think it's getting to the point soon. I would say in the next 4 or 5 games where it might be too late for Arsenal.
Yeah, Arsenal has to come back from, where are we now? Dubai. Yeah, my hope is that Arteta's gotten to everybody. Like
some team building exercises over in Saudi Arabia.
Well, just some finishing exercises. If we just practice finishing for however long we've been there, and we could put some of these chances away.
Are we not going to talk about Arteta and Salt Bay or whatever?
Hold on, but where did they go? Where did they go for preseason?
They came to America and they also go to Dubai normally. I think they do both.
Are you talking about that right now?
Yeah, they went to Dubai.
Because mid-season. That's where
I don't know if everybody's in Dubai. I know Arteta's there because.
The whole team's there.
Oh. But the Super Copa was in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Riyadh, right?
Yep.
Georgie wants to talk about how he watches Arteta's life so much. He watched him at dinner and he watched him be fed.
Have you seen the video?
No, I didn't see it. What happened?
Go find it.
No.
What is
Go
it?
find it right now.
It's just, you know how Salt Bay cuts the steak for everybody?
Yeah, did he
and
do
then
it for...
And then he did it for Arteta and fed him. And
Arteta's like...
And went and nibbled on it.
But
it's one of those things. It is an awkward looking video. But
every other team is like, thank God this is not my manager.
It was funny looking, but
I'll put it on the television.
Yeah, probably a few $1,000 steak he ate there.
Yeah, that's funny, man.
I guess speaking of, you mentioned the Super Copa, let's talk really quickly about that. The Real Madrid beatdown, the Vinny masterclass.
Yeah,
he put Araujo in his pocket and
38-minute hat trick.
Yeah, 38-minute hat trick. The defender who was guarding him, he got him sent off.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. I mean, Vinny, top of the world right now, like scoring a hat trick, final against your biggest rivals.
Mm-hmm.
I think Vinicius was like number 2 for the world's most valuable players right now, behind Bellingham. It was him. It was Bellingham, Vinicius, Haaland,
Saka.
No, it was like Mbappe, I think.
Oh, Mbappe, yep.
And then Saka was like 7th or 8th or something like that. But
can you imagine?
Vinicius is so good, man.
Can you imagine Mbappe and Haaland go to Madrid, and now you have the top 4?
And Rodrigo's so good too.
That's the underrated part.
Dude, yeah.
People talk about Jude, people talk about Vinny, and then Rodrigo kind of goes.
Yeah, he's not talked about as much. I mean, he's still talked about, but he's not talked about as much.
I mean, he had he had goal and assist in this game, right? Yeah. It's one of those things. The crazy part about Real Madrid is, I mean, obviously goals win games, and they have goals all over the pitch at any point. Like we were talking before the game. I think Bellingham's going to have a great game. I wouldn't say he played a bad game.
Yeah.
Non-factor though. Then you have Vinny completely and totally take over. That when you have players like that, and Rodrigo did a few games in the Champions League last season. He just absolutely completely took over. They have a lot of people that can go create goals out of nothing.
And when you talk about like the Super Copa against Barcelona, Barcelona's strength over Real Madrid has always been their passing and their technical ability to keep the ball, like possession. Mm-hmm. So when Barcelona used to dominate over Real Madrid is because Real Madrid had to just defend and wait for the counterattacks, and Barcelona was so good that they would do just well enough to prevent the counterattacks, but just have the ball most of the game. Whereas now the problem is we saw this: Barcelona's playing a high line when you got Vinicius, Rodrigo, Bellingham to be able to, like, Vinicius runs in behind and he's in acres of space. He's never gonna miss. Mm-hmm. So like Barcelona's not technically good enough anymore, passing-wise in possession, to keep the ball for long enough periods of time to kind of neutralize Real Madrid. And so now Real Madrid keeps the ball a little bit, Barcelona plays a high line, and then they just play the ball in behind. They just time it, right? They play the ball in behind, and they're up, what were they, up 2-0 within the first 10 minutes of the game?
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And then it was 2-1, and then 3-1, and then 4-1 was the final score.
When are we going to talk about Xavi out? I mean...
Georgie wants Xavi out.
Look, I said it on the podcast 2 months ago that Barca are nowhere near where they need to be in terms of, like, for example, when you look at Carlo Ancelotti at Real Madrid, the rebuild that they've done from the older players, and by older I mean Benzema leaving, Modric, Toni Kroos, you're bringing in younger. Chimini, you're bringing in, well, Valverde, Camavinga, like all those players. And then you have, on top of that, obviously, Jude was a big signing.
And don't forget Dani Ceballos,
Javi's favorite player.
The Arsenal legend.
Then you have Ibrahim Diaz, who's been amazing off the bench to come and help out. Rudiger, great from Chelsea. Like, once Ramos left as well. Real Madrid rebuilt their team while they were on top. Mm-hmm. And they've done it, bringing in younger players, world-class talents. And Vinny, for the first year or so, people were giving up because his finishing wasn't good. He would flop a lot of the time. And he was talked about as like, oh, he's not really going to make it Real Madrid. And now he's one of the best players in the world because maturity, the coaching, and everything, the whole system kind of works. So then you look at Barca, it's not all his fault as a coach, but in the past 5 years, you buy these random players, you spend tons of money, and it doesn't work out. And it's like you change your coach, Koeman, he was there, it didn't work out. You just nonstop changes. At some point, yes, coaches need time, managers need time, but Rafinha was bad, didn't work out. Memphis was bad, didn't work out. Griezmann was bad, didn't work out. They all leave, and now they're bringing in like younger players from the academies, and they're trying to make it work. But to me, if you're Barca and you finish at fourth in La Liga, we're not talking about a league where it's like Premier League, where like you have
there's
6 to 7 really good teams where maybe you're gonna make it this season, maybe not. It's Real Madrid, Atletico, Barca, and now we have Girona's doing amazing, obviously this season. But even Athletic Bilbao is doing really good, and potentially Barca might not even finish top 4.
Which is wild.
So just to think about that.
Is that on Xavi, though, or is that on, like, because kind of to your point, like, Real Madrid is the club is managed, it appears, very well. They're focused on now, but they're also very focused on making sure 2 years is going to be great, 5 years is going to be great, because they're doing that mixture of keeping a few, like, pillar players, because they very easily could have let Kroos go, let Modric go, but they don't. And I think they want to keep them to help, like, kind of shepherd in the new kids, where if you look at all of the people who are on Barcelona's great team or teams, the only one that's still there really is Xavi. Yeah. And he's coaching. But a lot of the other players are still playing, but they let them go for what, money, or to sell them when they're at the top, or it's a weird dynamic, the drastic difference between those two.
Couple of things though. First of all is, when is the last time that Barcelona has finished outside the top 4? Probably a long, long time ago, right?
Honestly, I have no idea.
Honestly. Did they finish outside the top 4 with Koeman? I don't think so.
No.
Right?
Because they wouldn't be. Yeah, that's a good question.
So let's just say that it's been a long time. So that would probably be a valid reason to let Xavi go. Because if you're Barcelona and you're finishing outside the top 4, that's not just a bad season. That's shambles. That's really, really bad.
Right now they're fourth with 41 points, tied with Athletic Bilbao, a game less, and 3 points in front of Atletico Madrid.
Yeah.
So
I got the
potentially,
Go.
they could finish outside the top
All right,
four.
so what was it?
The last time Barcelona finished outside the top 4 in La Liga was in the 2002, 2003
Okay, so
season.
22 years ago. 22 years ago was the last time they finished outside the top 4. So if they do finish outside the top 4, you would say the board has every right to sack Xavi, right? I just think that they've kind of been okay with getting average players. Like if you look at their players right now, they have a couple guys who are good, but they don't really have any game changers. Like even Lewandowski, you would say is, I mean, I'm not going to say he's past his prime, but I mean the man is 1 or 2 years away from really not being as effective anymore. And he scored a really good goal today. But besides Lewandowski, you don't have anyone position for position that would even be on a combined starting 11 with Real Madrid's team.
No. I mean, they started Andres Christensen at center back today.
Yeah.
And
So
not that, I mean, he's good, but for what you need at those teams, he's not.
So 2018, 2019, they won La Liga. Since then, they won it last year. So since 2019, so you're looking at 5 years now, they've won it once. And it was last year. So fair enough, that's when Xavi was there. So
yeah,
it's
like
hard
you
to
said,
say.
the honeymoon season, right?
Yeah, but and again, it's very hard to sack somebody, one club legend, and somebody that just won you La Liga.
Mm-hmm.
But man, the way the whole, it just, I don't know, it doesn't, something's off.
Yeah, I would say if he finishes top 4, give him another season, let him kind of restructure things and think about the players and the roster and who they're going to need to take out and who they're going to need to bring in. But it's a valid point to say that regardless of whether that's the thing with a team like Barcelona and Real Madrid, they never want to become just one of the other teams. Mm-hmm. Like they will never want to do that. Real Madrid's scouting department and the way that they work with the manager has been fantastic because they don't just get the most expensive players. They get one, maybe like Jude, like the best player in the world, which is they're never going to lose the person that they're focused on because it's Real Madrid. Mm-hmm. Almost everybody wants to play for Real Madrid. But then they're smart about the players that they get, right? They just brought in Endrick, right? Mm-hmm. So they're smart in terms of their scouting of getting players that they know are going to be world-class players in a few years and just bring them into Real Madrid system and let them develop. And obviously it works well with Ancelotti, and that's why it looks like he's renewed his contract. But it is kind of funny to see the shift in the dominance between Barcelona and Real Madrid over the years, right? Like there's periods where Real Madrid is dominating and then Barcelona and then Real Madrid and Barcelona. But I just think Barcelona has a lot of work to do right now if they want to get back to that.
Vini cost Real Madrid 45 million.
It's insane.
What a steal when you think about some of the players that like Chelsea has brought in for twice that amount of money.
Mudryk was what, almost $100 million more than Vini in price?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Coutinho, 140.
But it shows kind of to your point of like bring in players when they're younger, get players that you think can grow into it, get them a part of a winning culture, teach them how to be professionals, let them kind of grow up a little bit in the shadows, and then.
And Zidane was a huge part in obviously
That's
all
true.
of this as well. So let's not just put it on Ancelotti, but Zidane, Ancelotti, I can't remember was anybody else in between those two? I have no idea. I know Rafa Benitez was there for a little bit, but he got fired.
I thought Zidane took over right after
Benitez, was it? Because Zidane left, came back, right?
No, Zidane took over after Ancelotti because he was his assistant. Remember?
Yeah. But that was like
and then
7 years ago.
And then Zidane left, and Ancelotti came back.
Was it just that? No, Rafa Benitez is somewhere in there. Like,
was he?
Was he?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It is
not. It really matters, but
but
they're just they have a good system. They clearly have their shit together at Real Madrid, which is why they're still probably the best team. I would say currently probably the best team in the world right now.
they're your favorites for the Champions League.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
With the way that Jude's playing Vinicius, it's just hard to stop. And then you're never gonna. If those guys get on the wrong side of you, you're never gonna catch them.
Nope.
And that's the thing. And then Jude's gonna be the one to be able to play those balls in and get in the box and finish it after he plays the ball in too.
The one I think the only position that they're suspect in is goalkeeping at the moment.
Yeah.
That's outside of that. I think across like player for player, they're top.
And it doesn't surprise me if they find they're just waiting for the right time to get a world-class goalkeeper.
You think they're going to sign Ramsdale in January?
No chance.
So just because it's interesting, Mourinho took over in 2010. Carlo Ancelotti took over 2013. Rafa Benitez took over 2015. Got sacked real quick. Then Zidane, 2016, took over. Then Julian Lopetegui, whatever.
Lopetegui.
He took over 2018. And then Solari.
Oh, damn, they have gone through a lot.
Yeah, and then Solari took over him because he got fired really quick. And then Solari stayed there
2 months, right?
Yeah, but it's weird because right here it shows at first he stayed there for 14 days. Something happened, and then he came back and stayed for 118 days. And there's nobody in between. And then Zidane took over again, and then now it's back to Ancelotti. So
forgot about those guys because they
couldn't really last.
Solari lasted very little.
Yeah, and then it's been mostly Zidane and Ancelotti, and why not bring them back when you've experienced plenty of winning days under them? So
yeah,
crazy.
I think that's pretty much for the recap, right?
Yeah.
All right. Short episode today though. Short episode because we got some time limits, time restrictions. But it's good because we got to get. I think it's important to get the content out regardless, even if it's a quicker episode. We typically do about an hour and 20 minutes after it's all said and done. Today we're just under 50 minutes, so maybe a little bit shorter than usual, but good to recap the games.
Yeah, all the games that are.
It's been a great day of games today, man. Great day of games.
Yeah.
Thank you to everyone who was with us live. I know a lot of you who probably are listening to this were with us live for both games, which we very much appreciate, and we want to do that more often for you.
Yeah, building that community.
Yeah, so make sure. Just last bit, follow us again on all social media channels, which includes YouTube is youtube.com/@thenGW podcast, and then the Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok is @thenGW podcast. TikTok is where we do all of our lives, at least for now. If we get a decent amount of followers on the YouTube, we will do all the lives on the YouTube, which will be great because we can actually hook up all the different camera angles and run it just like a podcast. But for now, we're just limited to the TikTok because that's where we have most of our following. Yep. So the more people that follow us, the more content, the more stuff that we'll be able to put out. And
Show the shin guards.
Show the shin guards one more time. Just put it in front of your camera,
man.
Put it in front of Joe's camera. Right there. It might not zoom. It might not be able to focus if you're that close.
There we go.
Look at that.
Absolutely beautiful.
Hold it back so that you can see the size of the shin guard in your hand. That's the funny part. So just hold it there, and the camera will focus. The camera will focus there. Look at that. Unbelievable.
Oh, man.
The real question is, how many goals am I going to score now? Wait, if I have Darwin, Kelly, all my dogs, oh, my God.
Make sure every time you score, you take out the shin pads and
kiss it.
And you kiss
By
it.
the way, I had so much fun making that design. I thought it was hilarious, by the way.
I text Kelly. She's like, why the fuck is Darwin in the middle with her?
I had to put Darwin in the middle. She'll understand.
She asked her. She got me a book.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
Well, appreciate you guys hanging out with us today, and we'll catch. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not the host.
Yeah. Well, you taking my job already?
Joe.
He's foreshadowing. But no, hey, thank you everybody. Javi can do the points so he can edit in. But yeah, please give us a follow, as he mentioned, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Please like and subscribe. Have a great Sunday, everybody.
Peace.